Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. First and foremost, I'd like to wish you guys a happy and healthy new year. I wish you guys all of the success in the world for 2022. Hopefully you achieve great things, have some great times, and again, most importantly, stay healthy. But this video really is a quick little video in regards to what fighters to watch out for in 2022. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to include highly touted guys, apart from one exception. I'm trying to shed some light on guys who not many people are talking about, but who I rate very highly, and who I expect to do big things in the year 2022. Now, to start this video, we're going to go down into the lower weights, flyweight to be exact, and one guy I expect big things from in 2022 is a gentleman by the name of Ricardo Rafael Sandoval. He is 22 years old, Mexican-American, nicknamed El Nino, which is pretty cool, but I love this guy's style. I was first aware of Ricardo Sandoval not that long ago. The first time I saw him fight was against Jay Harris, and that fight was held in the UK. Now, going into that fight, I had no idea who Ricardo Sandoval was, and at this time, Jay Harris was coming off a loss, but a really good performance against Julio Cesar Martinez, where he went the distance. So I was expecting Sandoval potentially to have a hard time in this fight. Even if Sandoval won, I was expecting him to be tested, but quite frankly, that is not what happened. Ricardo Sandoval came over at 22 years old, away from home, and completely took apart, dismantled, and beat down Jay Harris. Excellent performance by Ricardo Sandoval. The first thing that struck me with Sandoval was that he had a style and demeanour well beyond his years. Again, 22 years old, fighting away from home for the very first time in a big step up. But against Jay Harris, his composure was second to none. Never let the crowd get to him. His balance, his poise, his patience was super impressive. He wasn't wasting punches. He was applying very effective pressure on Jay Harris, who primarily is a boxer, a long-range boxer. And quite frankly, he never let Jay Harris get a foothold in this fight. He was systematically chopping down the body round by round, and he wasn't giving Jay Harris any escape routes as he was applying pressure. He wasn't following Jay Harris in straight lines. He was taking a step to either side, short steps to close the distance, and he made Jay Harris fight his fight, and in the exchanges, Sandoval just beat down Jay Harris. A very poised pressure fighter. He's not a Margarito type pressure fighter. He's not wham bam thank you ma'am. He's more technically refined, likes to come in behind that high guard, and he really picks his spots. I also really like his jab. His jab is paramount to his style as he's applying pressure, and it's quite a varied jab. He'll vary the levels of the jab. He'll go from body to head, he'll jab to the body for a few times, and then he'll set up his overhand right. He's also got that shotgun jab where he really steps into it and rocks the head back of his opponents, and sometimes he'll just flick the double jab, move around his opponent, take a look. His jab is very educated. It's a multifaceted jab, which I like, and that's where a lot of his good work comes off. Of course, he can lead with power shots also, and he's just a handful, and at 22 years old, given what I've seen so far, I think there's a very promising future on the horizon for Ricardo Sandoval. Really, really nice style. If you like aggressive guys who are pressure fighters but are technically sound, Ricardo Sandoval is one of the guys for you. And he's actually, I believe he's Sonny Edwards' IBF mandatory right now. I think he's #1 contender. So we could see Sonny Edwards versus Ricardo Sandoval very soon, and to me that's a fascinating fight. Sonny Edwards has really impressed me in recent fights, I have to be honest. He's come on a long way, but Ricardo Sandoval will be a very hard fight, and don't be surprised if Sandoval beats Sonny Edwards. I think Sandoval is very good. Keep an eye out for this kid because he could go all of the way. Now the next guy campaigns at lightweight. Obviously, in the last couple of years or so, we've heard the media hysteria in relation to the four kings, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. But one guy who's not getting shine, who I think is really fucking good, is William Zepeda. To me, this guy is a serious talent. He's a Mexican fighter, 25 years old. He's quite a big lightweight. He's around 5'9", and on top of that, he's a southpaw. Primarily, William Zepeda is a pressure fighter. He's very aggressive. He carries real power in both hands, and quite frankly, he's extremely exciting. Right now, he's got an impressive record of 24-0 with 22 knockouts. And the first time I saw William Zepeda was when he fought fellow unbeaten prospect Hector Tanajara. Now, Tanajara going into that fight was the guy who was getting more backing from Golden Boy. He was the guy who was kind of expected to win that fight, quite frankly. But William Zepeda completely broke down and destroyed Hector Tanajara. He destroyed him to the body and basically run him over. In all honesty, it wasn't really that competitive. And I saw that fight and I went back and watched more. And what I saw left me very impressed. Much like the previous guy on this list, Ricardo Sandoval, William Zepeda, while he's a pressure fighter, he's technically sound. He's not like Margarito where it's, balls to the wall and throwing whatever you can throw. No, Zepeda is much more methodical than that. As I said, he's a southpaw. He likes to use that southpaw jab to set up his work. He'll use it as a throwaway punch to set up his punches from long distance. And he'll also use like a ramrod jab to close the distance, push you back and get close to you to work on the inside. His jab in itself is quite educated. And I also like, it's a varied lead hand. He's extremely good at lead hand control, and the lead hand, it has variety. He doesn't always lead off with a jab with his right hand. Sometimes he'll actually take a step back and lead you on and throw like a check counter right hook, for example. He's a very educated fighter. Primarily, again, he's a pressure fighter. He loves to work the body. He's got great punch technique. He turns his punches over really well, but he can step back and throw the jab. He can walk you onto shots also. He's quite versatile in his approach. Again, primarily he is a pressure fighter and that's his style, but he's got other tricks in the tool bag. He can be quite crafty. He carries power in both hands. He has respectable footwork, good balance. I like the way he uses his high guard to close the distance. He'll sometimes come in at a crouch and really explode with his power shots to body and head. All in all, I think he's a very good pressure fighter, and this is not hyperbole. Right now, I would give William Zepeda a fighting chance against Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. I'm not saying he beats those guys right now, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did. I mean, we saw how Devin Haney struggled with the pressure of little Jojo Diaz. William Zepeda applies much more pressure with higher punch output, with more size, with more power, and we saw Jorge Linares hurt Devin Haney. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Zepeda beats Haney right now. I really wouldn't be shocked. I'm that high on William Zepeda. I think he's a very good talent, does what he does very well. He switches off sometimes, naturally being very aggressive. He does get caught coming in, but that is what it is. But I think he's very good at what he does. He's got a very exciting style, and I think he's got an underrated skill set. He's comfortable across most ranges, outside, mid-range, and obviously on the inside. Shortens his punches very well, can always generate power no matter where he's at, and that's because his footwork is good and his balance is very good. So to me, William Zepeda is a guy people need to be looking out for in 2022. All I hope is that Golden Boy give this guy a real push. Obviously, they are in the Ryan Garcia business. Ryan Garcia's in the same division. So I hope William Zepeda doesn't suffer because of that. Because ultimately, I think he's a really good talent, a really good fighter, and he's not too far away from world title level right now. I think he's very good, very good. But on to the next guy on the list, and we're going to go to Russia for this one. And of course we're talking about Albert Batyrgaziev. He competes in the featherweight division, he is 5-0 with 5 knockouts, and of course he comes from great amateur pedigree. In fact, he won the gold medal at featherweight in the Tokyo 2021 Games by beating Duke Reagan in the final. Now interestingly, when it comes to these Eastern European fighters who come from great amateur background, usually these guys turn pro quite late. They tend to spend quite a few years in the amateurs. However, Batyrgaziev is only 23 years old, so he has a lot of time to develop in the pro game, unlike some of his counterparts. But Batyrgaziev, he is a pressure fighter primarily, and interestingly as well, he is a southpaw. He does have a very exciting style, he is very aggressive, but you can tell that this guy was a very successful amateur, and very often you see that with the lead hand, and Batyrgaziev's lead hand is very educated. First and foremost, he does have a lovely jab when he commits to it, which he can throw from body to head. He will feint the jab as well, and he can work off that really effectively. He likes to kind of apply pressure, but sometimes he'll hold his feet, feint the jab, he'll draw the lead, and he will exchange with his opponents. And that's another thing. Batyrgaziev, he likes to get up and close, he likes to get rough and tumble, but he's very composed in the exchanges, and with that left hand in particular, he's really good at timing you in between your punches and getting his work off first, and usually his work is more effective. So yeah, primarily he is a pressure fighter, but he can counterpunch on the front foot. He's also a pretty good body puncher. On top of that, carries respectable power, good footwork, good skills at cutting off the ring. And at 23 years old, yes, he's still a work in progress. Yes, he does need to, at times, improve his defense and things of that nature. But, at 23 years old, there's a lot to work with there. And being only 23, there's no real need to rush this guy. You can give him a few fights to really develop into the pro game. But having said that, in his 5th fight, he actually fought a former world title challenger in Franklin Manzanilla, and Manzanilla went the distance with Ray Vargas a couple of years ago. Albert Batyrgaziev knocked him out in the 4th round and made pretty easy work of it, quite frankly. And honestly, I get the temptation of rushing Batyrgaziev, because when you look at the featherweight division, I believe Batyrgaziev right now can beat top 10 opposition. I'm talking about guys like Lee Wood, for example, Isaac Dogbe, Kiko Martinez, who is actually a champion. So honestly, I do believe right now he could beat some top 10 guys, and maybe they're going to go that route. Maybe they are going to push this guy quite quickly. If that happens, that happens, but I would like to see him get a few fights to develop into the pro game, and maybe in his 8th, 9th, 10th fight, then start going for world honours kind of thing. But he's a very impressive fighter. He's got a great style, and if you like technically proficient pressure fighters, then you'll definitely like Albert Batyrgaziev, and I expect him to do quite well in 2022. Hopefully he stays active and he can get some interesting fights. We now move over to America, and we will be covering the lightweight prospect Keyshawn Davis. Now, I know Keyshawn Davis does have hype, and this is the only exception in the video, but I have to say, I do rate Keyshawn Davis very highly. To me personally, he was the standout guy in the US Olympic team when it comes to boxing. He competed in the lightweight division and eventually won a silver medal. He lost to Andy Cruz in the final, and honestly, there's no shame in losing to Andy Cruz. Arguably right now, Andy Cruz is the best amateur in the world pound for pound. So, he won a silver medal and had a successful Olympic campaign. Keyshawn Davis will be campaigning at lightweight as a pro, and quite frankly, he is a big lightweight. He's 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. He's still only 22 years old, with a lot of room to grow, and given his frame, I expect him to go through the weight classes. And honestly, when I watched Keyshawn in the amateurs, I always got the impression that his style was more suited to the professional ranks. Yes, Keyshawn Davis can box and move, but primarily I would call Keyshawn Davis a boxer-puncher. He does like to put it on his opponents, let go of combinations. He loves to work that body, and when you watch Keyshawn Davis fight, like any good boxer-puncher, everything good comes off that jab. Keyshawn's got a very good jab, a very consistent jab, which he can also throw as a weapon in its own right. He does have a really hard jab when he wants to use it, but he shows great poise, great balance. I like the fact that even as a young pro, he doesn't really waste anything in there. Right now he's only 4-0 with 3 knockouts, but I've liked what I've seen so far. Again, stylistically, I think he's suited for the pro ranks. He seems to chase for knockouts. He seems to like to slowly dismantle his opponents by going down to the body and slowly dissecting them. He has respectable power, respectable speed, and he's actually a really astute counterpuncher also. Carries very good accuracy. Like I said, he doesn't really waste much, and that's really impressive when you see that from a young pro just turning over, and especially at his age as well. I think Keyshawn Davis, in my opinion at least, I think he is the best prospect in American boxing. I think he was the best American fighter in the Olympics, and I expect him to have a good 2022. I want to see him stay busy, stay active, get some rounds in, and progress in his career because he's got a lot of talent and there's a lot there to work with. I think he's a very good prospect, and again, the best prospect in American boxing right now, in my opinion. For the next guy on the list, we go back to Russia, and we go to the super middleweight division to cover Pavel Silyagin. Now, Pavel Silyagin had a really good 2021, and a lot more people are becoming more aware of him, but he still doesn't really get much shine in the boxing media. In 2021, he actually had 4 fights, and that culminated in his last fight with a win over trial horse Isaac Chilemba. And, Isaac Chilemba these days isn't what he once was, but he can still make you look really bad. But in that fight, Pavel Silyagin basically won every single round and won that fight handily. Pavel Silyagin has a record of 9-0 with 4 knockouts. He's 28 years old, 6'1", and essentially he's on the threshold of top 10 level at 168, and you have to consider 168 quite soon could become very open. I've got a feeling that the undisputed champion Canelo Alvarez will vacate some, if not all of those titles sooner rather than later, and that could leave an opening for a guy like Pavel Silyagin, who is climbing the ranks. Now, I have to confess, Pavel Silyagin, his style is not going to be for everyone. He's not a particularly big puncher, and some may describe his style as boring and even ugly. He's an extremely unorthodox fighter, weird body mechanics, weird movements. He fights in his own rhythm. He's one of those sort of fighters. Honestly, it's really hard to compare him to anybody. I guess, it's like somebody like Demetrius Andrade and James DeGale meshed together. He's got a really peculiar style. Sometimes technically he does do a lot wrong. Sometimes he slaps with his punches. He will sometimes fight with his chin up, and sometimes he'll pull back with his chin in the air. But he's got such an offbeat rhythm, it seems to befuddle everybody he fights. And one thing about him that he does do very well, he's got an excellent jab. Really sharp jab, really accurate. He'll double the jab up, feint off a jab, vary the jab from body to head. He'll jab coming forwards, jab going backwards. He'll vary the power on the jab. His jab is extremely educated, and combine that with his unorthodox style, he's going to give a lot of guys a lot of problems, and he'll definitely become a world level contender. Whether he can win a belt or not, we shall see. But his style is so unique, and it could be very effective against certain guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if Pavel Silyagin does pick up some sort of world title in the near future. He doesn't really have a conventional Russian style, whatever that is, but when you look at him, you wouldn't really think, oh, that's an Eastern European fighter. His style is just unique. It's like he's so loose, he's so languid. It's like he smoked a fat blunt before he fights. He's got a weird style. Check him out. It's intriguing to watch. He's intriguing to watch, but he could be very effective, though like I said, his style may not be for everybody. So yeah, those are 5 guys who I'm really looking forward to seeing in 2022, and I expect pretty good things from all of these guys I mentioned. Again, I'm not saying all of these guys go on to become world champions in 2022, but I just believe these guys who I mentioned do have pretty high ceilings. They are talented in their own respective ways. And yeah, these are 5 guys in particular who I'm really looking out for in 2022. Honestly, I could have made this video so much longer, but we would be here all day. I try to purposely include some lesser known guys who in my opinion don't really get much shine or hype. But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on these guys I mentioned, and I'd also like to hear your opinions on other fighters that you expect to do well in 2022 and that you expect big things from. And, you know, for fun, try and keep it to lesser known guys who are going under the radar kind of thing. But yeah, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.